G'day, I'm Hamish Stairs and welcome to a low budget, all Aussie Adventures.
I've been around this white brown land, seen a thing or two. From great out back, the beaten track, let's share it now with you. All Aussie Adventures, pack up your swag, let's go. All Aussie Adventures. All Aussie Adventures, time to hit the road.
G'day, we're down here today in the beautiful Yea wetlands looking for the majestic platypus. We know this is an elusive and shy creature, but maybe we'll find one today. Now this is a classic habitat of the platypus. Wetlands and rivers all along the east of Australia. Now, they're notoriously hard to spot and sometimes could just be a log of wood. Oh, there's one. Oh, no, it's just a log. Platypuses are monotremes, which means they're a type of mammal that lays eggs. They're carnivores, so they eat worms, yabbies and insects, and live in burrows on the riverbank when they're not hunting for food. The platypus are a very important animal to First Nations people. Today, we're down here on the traditional lands of the Taungurung people, who have a very interesting Dreamtime story about the origins of the platypus. Now the story goes that the duck people and the water rat people were sworn enemies until one day a young duck was seduced by a handsome water rat. From this forbidden love came children that resembled both the mother duck with webbed feet and a bill and the water rat father with dark fur and a shy nature. So this is where the first platypuses came from, and they became known as a symbol of unity and tolerance by bringing these two enemy families together. The platypus was also used as a resource by First Nations people, as it was occasionally hunted for its meat. However, it appears that the meat wasn't highly prized, and they were probably a bit hard to catch as well. The platypus also often features in Aboriginal artwork. All these things reflect the deep cultural connection and dynamic relationship that First Nations people have with native animals like the platypus. Now, after European colonisation, the relationship between humans and platypuses changed. Early settlers were confused and fascinated by this new animal, and scientists back in Britain thought it was a hoax. Early settlers also began hunting the platypus for fur, until this practice was outlawed as it was clear that it was unsustainable. While we stopped viewing the platypus as a resource years ago, there are still some less obvious threats to this animal's survival. Now, platypuses aren't threatened or endangered at the moment, but they are still listed as a protected species. There's been some significant population decline in some localised areas, and many of the threats posed to platypuses are a result of human impacts. This is a classic example of litter. Oh, it actually says here that pollution and litter in rivers can result in poor water quality. Other examples of human impacts on platypuses include significant changes to habitat, human modification of habitat from damming of rivers, and the use of water for farming purposes. Clearing vegetation around waterways can also have a significant impact. That was actually a pretty useful bit of litter, actually. Drought and climate change can also impact the habitat of the platypus. Other impacts include the introduction of species such as foxes and domestic cats and dogs, which can prey on the poor little platypus. Another big threat to the platypus were the use of opera house yabby nets, which became notorious for accidentally trapping and drowning platypuses. These have now been banned in Australian waterways. Now you might be wondering how it's possible for humans to interact with a shy animal like the platypus. They can't be domesticated, and it's illegal to keep one as a pet. They've also got a poisonous spur on their foot, so watch out. Now, there are some groups dedicated to looking after the platypus, and wildlife enthusiasts can also help by listing any reported sightings to help keep track of the location and population of these animals. This encourages people to get outdoors and try and find a platypus, and also engage in activities such as kayaking, bushwalking and fishing. Oh, quick, there's one! Now, signs like these ones can help teach people about the platypus and are a great example of how the platypuses can play a role in educating people about the Australian environment. The uniqueness of the platypus makes it a very engaging and interesting animal for children, and so it features prominently in entertainment and education. Examples include toys, children's books, and cartoon characters like Perry the Platypus. The platypus is even on the Australian 20-cent coin. Platypuses are such an iconic Australian animal, we've even got a giant one. Now that's the end of our platypus adventure. We may not have found one today, but I think we still learn a thing or two about this beautiful native animal. Time to hit the road.